Welcome to That's Classic. This is the first part of a two-part interview with Sheree J. Wilson. Enjoy. All right, fantastic. So, as always, here we are on That's Classic, and we have just a fun one. This is somebody that I've wanted to interview, as I've said before, but honestly, she is fantastic. Just a great, great person. So I have none other than the actress that played April Stevens on Dallas, and also Alex Cahill on Walker, Texas Ranger. So we've got a lot to talk about, and I just want to welcome Sheree J. Wilson. Sheree, how are you?
I'm great. It's a beautiful day here in Dallas, Texas. I moved back to the scene of the crime, left California like 3 years ago, and I just really missed the Southern hospitality and sweetness of people here. Yeah, I moved back to Dallas.
Wow, I
Okay.
think that's cool.
Yeah, I love it. We love it.
Very nice, very nice. And I agree. By the way, I spent a fair amount of time myself in Dallas, and there's a lot of really, great people there. I've had a lot of fun times.
It's true. Very philanthropic city. Um, if people say they're going to show up, they do. And it's more they say what they mean and they do what they say.
Yeah, yeah.
That's kind of that simple.
I love it. I love it. It is cool though that here you were on Dallas and now you're living in Dallas, Texas. I mean, it's like I would be if I was there and I saw you walking by, I'd be like, okay, that is really wild that you're actually here.
You know something, it does make a difference, because I have charities that are very near and dear to my heart, like the Yellow Rose Gala Foundation. And we have a huge gala coming up, and I've been the chairperson. And, getting people to show up and to donate items, and to when I'm asking, it's hard for them to say no.
Yeah, yeah. And you're a local,
I'm a
So
local. Yep.
that's a
It's true.
big deal. That is. All right. So all this, I'm sure people listening are like, I love it, but can you talk about Dallas or Walker? Okay. So in the case of Dallas, and I definitely, I went through your whole career and really you have like a fascinating story of like where people are like, wow, did things come into place? Not that you're not mega talented, all of that, but wow, did things come into place? It's just cool. So first of all, did you actually audition for Dallas? That's the one thing I was trying to figure out.
I did not. I had well, as you know, because you've interviewed Patrick Duffy,
Yes.
and the year of, that he left, he wanted to do other projects, and so did Leonard Katzman, who was the father of I mean, he was just Leonard was it. He created the show, like he ran the show. He was really the visionary. I mean, besides, Mr. Jacobson. And there's a lot of people. I'm not trying to slight anybody
Totally
here, but
understand.
Leonard Katzman, as our executive producer, was really, he was the strong force. He left and he went on to do a series called Our Family Honor with Chuck and Larry Gordon.
Yeah.
I happened to be cast by Leonard, Chuck, and Larry through several auditions as the role of Rita Danzig. I was Michael Madsen's wife, and I was on the mafia side of the family. And that show was tremendous. It was like The Sopranos before The Sopranos.
Quite a
But
cast, by the way. Quite a cast.
Eli
Yeah.
Wallach, Kenneth McMillan, Michael Madsen, just it was Ray Liotta.
Yeah. Come on.
It was ridiculous. And yet we only lasted 1 year.
Mm.
And it was a lot of, let's say, politics and financial reasons,
Mm.
but not because it wasn't a great show, because it was.
Yeah.
And ironically, because Leonard was directing the pilot and several episodes, we worked together. And so the famous year of the shower scene, and it was all a dream.
Yeah.
And when the show was not being picked up
Mm.
again, that was the ideal pivotal moment where Larry approached Lenny as well as Patrick, and said, come back. And whether this is true or not, well, I know the ask was true, that Larry went to CBS and said, I'll put up $1 million to get Leonard Katzman back and Patrick Duffy back if you'll put up $1 million. And he said,
Wow.
and that's what we did.
Wow.
So whether Larry had to put up his million or not is questionable, but I know CBS definitely did. But yeah, I mean, Leonard called my agent and asked me to come to Lorimar. So I went into his office and he started telling me how Dallas, it was just everybody's favored nations. Everybody has the same dressing rooms. We really need to unwind all the mess that they made while he was gone.
Wow.
And he said, first of all, I'm bringing Patrick back. It'll all be a dream last year, but there's a lot of characters that we have to figure out how to get rid of. And I need JR's nemesis as one. I need a little femme fatale, JR's nemesis, to come on board and really go toe to toe with JR. And he just went on and on and on about what he liked in my character and how he saw, that I could go toe to toe with Michael Madsen and whoever on the show. And I was signed to do, I think, 10 episodes. And I left there and I called my agent. I said, she goes, what did he want? And I said, well, either I'm crazy or I just got offered a job on Dallas. And she goes, what? I said, yes. He was just telling me all about it. If I said yes, he's going to start writing April Stevens. And she said, oh my gosh. So that's pretty much how it turned out. And to my great fortune, I was so nervous because I started watching Dallas when I was in high school. And this is year 7. And I only was supposed to do 10 episodes. And I have a photographic memory, so I can memorize pretty quickly.
Wow.
I'm so nervous. I would memorize my lines. I would memorize Larry's lines. I'd memorize everybody's lines. So when I walked in, Larry, the first thing, hi, Mr. Hagman. He goes, oh, please, it's Larry. And then he goes, do you know your jokes? And I was like, my jokes? Do I have jokes? And he was like, your lines, darling. I said, oh yeah, I know my lines. I know your lines. I know everybody's lines. He goes, okay. So he put it to the test. So in the afternoon, because he had a tendency to sip champagne throughout the day.
Oh, it's very well known. Trust me. Patrick talked about it. Yeah. Steve Canale. Yeah.
Yeah. So by the afternoon, I think that pretty much anybody who knows actors or is in the business, or maybe they don't know, people that are not familiar with a term called going up.
Mm-hmm.
And going up is, oh my gosh, what's my next line? If you see an actor do this and the eyes roll up the head, that means they're thinking about what to say next. So I saw him. He was in a really good mood. Let's just put it that way. And I saw his eyes go, and I go, psh, 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 psh. And he looked at me. It was like, and then he got his JR voice on it. And he said his line just so that he goes, I can't believe it. You really did memorize all my lines. That was the beginning of a great friendship. And he would test me every once in a while, but we had a lot of fun playing together. It was great to work with him. First of all, he's one of the best and most profound actors, I think, of his time and our time, my time. His comedic timing was impeccable. He could play. He was just the most wonderful villain, the guy that you love to hate, but he always had a twinkle in his eye. He just had a magic and he was charismatic, and it was a privilege to work with him. And obviously Patrick, Linda, Kenny, Charlene, everybody. It was the most fun job I think I've ever had. It is.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did Larry, as you said, I had Patrick Duffy on, Steve Canale, I have had on. I have not put that episode out yet in case anybody's listening. But Steve also, they both mentioned that they felt like Larry, he was the I don't know,
The
that I
glue.
want to say the heartbeat, the glue to that show. Did you feel that?
Oh, 1000%. I mean, everybody brought their goods and their talent and they played their parts really, really well. And it was such a cohesiveness. But Larry was the Pied Piper. He was the one that would bring everybody together, and he did it in such a jovial party atmosphere. It was like, are we really at work, or are we just at a really fun party at Larry's, one of his houses?
Wow.
So, he and Patrick had a real they were really brothers and best friends. And so they both, with their comedic timing, would play off of each other. And my mantra every day driving to work was, please don't laugh so hard you cry your makeup off. You please don't make them laugh. I mean, literally, I would be laughing so hard. I could see Kathy Podwell when I was on camera and she was off, and she's supposed to be delivering lines, and they're back behind her, feeding her, and she would just turn, and you'd see her shoulders just shaking, and it
Oh my
back
God.
up like this. And I mean, we were very serious when we were filming most of the time, but no, I literally cried my makeup off many times, laughing so hard that my tears ran my mascara.
Do you remember any? I know that Patrick had talked that they were kind of prone to pranking a little bit. Do you remember any pranks on the set?
Um, yeah, when you open up a closet door and there is the biggest teamster in the history of life in his tidy whities, just they would set up maybe a love scene between Bobby and April, and I slip into bed, and it's just littered with toys. Okay. um, they they were they were children, and Barbara Bel Geddes was truly mama. We would have those dinners at the South Fork table, and the minute that Larry or Patrick were done with their close-ups, they would start talking to you, and they'd be delivering lines as mashed potatoes and peas would be spilling out of their things and dripping down their just looking at them like, are you 5?
Oh.
How old are you right now? And
Oh.
it just, it made every day such a joy to go to work, because there were serious scenes, there were emotional scenes, there were death scenes,
Oh.
there was a lot that went on, but it was magical. It was absolutely magical working with everybody. I mean, people don't know what a profound art aficionado and how well read Ken Kercheval is, because he kind of played that bumbling Cliff Barnes. But
Totally.
oh, he was so well read. He had such an appreciation of art. He was so interesting, when you're off camera.
Yeah.
And but yeah, it was it was a dream job.
Yeah, it sounds like. Well, you know what? What were a lot. I'll be thinking about that Larry and and Patrick stuff for a long time. By the way, that's really funny. Um, but what
They
was like? Go ahead.
easy too. If you weren't completely on camera, they would be spitting peas at one another across the table, and Barbara would just slam her head down. Bobby, JR, stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it. She was like,
Oh my gosh, I love that. I love that so much. Okay, what were like offset, what was Linda Gray like, or Charlene, or the rest of the cast?
Linda Gray is an angel. You know, I don't know how they tucked her wings in every day, but she is an angel personified. She
Hmm.
is the sweetest, most spiritual, most loving, kind human being on the planet. And she played such the opposite of her true personality. Shows you her talent because
Oh, yeah.
she was surly, and when she was in her drunk stage or when she was in her vindictive, I'll get you, JR, they just had the best battle, and
Oh,
they
the
loved
best.
each other immensely and had so much respect, and you know, they just had a blast. um, and Charlene and I were, you know, we're very contemporary in age. I think we're this exactly the same age, I think. I'm not sure. Maybe a few months difference, but
Yeah.
we became like, I mean, Charlene and Kathy Podwell and I, we were like sisters. We just became best buds. Um, I still, you know, when we go to Nashville, my husband and I, we call Charlene, we get together for lunch and Cherish, and we went to Cherish's wedding. We, you know, we've
Oh,
stayed really close friends. And when she was living in Nashville, she would call us when she got back to LA, or she would call us, and you know, it's just fun. It's like old home week, and it's like we're in a big class reunion or a family reunion is what it, no, family, not class, but you know, it's just fun to see people that you had the privilege of working with for, you know, many hours of the day. Most shows, especially Walker, when
hmm.
we picked Walker, those were 12-hour days because there was so much action and there were so many locations and there was so
Yeah.
much to do. Every episode was so packed. Dallas, we didn't have those ridiculous long hours because there was controlled sets and they were pre-lit. And so we had the privilege of, you know, waltzing in and already being pre-lit and then having little pocket lights, beauty lights being, you know, as soon as we did all of our blocking. And but you spend sometimes more hours with your work family
Hmm.
than you do with your regular family. And so it's really a gift when you all love each other, and it would be really a drag if you didn't. Oh my gosh, I can't even. Life would get very long.
Yeah, I agree with you. You know, having had that opportunity to meet Linda and having the opportunity to meet Charlene, I have to say, there isn't even a second that you don't pick that up right away. I mean, my gosh, Linda is supposed to be on the show possibly within a month here or so with her schedule, but what a
Good.
sweetheart. And same with Charlene. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm really, really, really impressed.
Yes. I mean, and it's just, it makes it out, you know, when you're working with somebody that you like so much. I
Hmm.
think that's why, you know, Dallas, besides just, you know, the great writing and the great actors and stuff like that, but it transcends. You can tell when people really care about one another and that
Hmm.
they like each other. It just, it's like you're, there's a smile, even with, even when JR was being bad, he always had a smirk and a smile.
He did.
I mean, it really transcends, and you can, I think the audience really feels when you all really care about one another.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. I think it translates. So, you know, I ask this of almost every guest because everybody likes to know. But for you, what were your favorite episodes? Which ones kind of stand out in your mind?
Well, um, it's so funny. There's so many different vignettes and storylines that went on because I started out only, you know, I was only supposed to be there for 10 episodes, and I was a bad girl, you know. Yeah, when you manipulate your way into never signing your divorce papers, and so you get 5% of viewing oil. Then you have pillow talk with JR because he has $100 million and you have 5% of viewing oil, and you just make a deal through pillow talk and you exchange. And then, so in order to keep me, because we all got along so well, and maybe it was because I could memorize everybody's lines too.
Literally, that's wild.
But she's a valuable one to keep around. We better, you know, they had to figure out how to go what my character arc was going to be. And so I went from a bad girl to a good girl in order to marry Bobby Ewing. Pretty tough call when I've slept with his brother.
Yeah, exactly.
Hard to erase some of those memories, but no, there were fun episodes when, like Jack Scalia's character came on, and with, all these, my sister came on, Kimberly Foster. There were fun friendships that Ken Kercheval and I did. I remember there was a song called Lady in Red. It
I loved
was
it.
Dancing with Me. And they put me in a red dress with Chanel No. 5 earrings for the Cattle Baron's Ball, or the Oil Baron's Ball, whatever. I'm forgetting which one's the real one, which one's the fake one. Because the real one's Dallas, and the fake one's on the series Dallas.
Yep.
But I was walking in, and Kenny was not facing, he was facing into the room. And I went up behind him, and at that time there was, cassette tapes that you could push a button and you had the little box, how far we've come. And I put some headphones on him, and I was playing Lady in Red. His dancer, he turned around and he was like, and so we danced our way into the thing. I had fun times with Kenny. With Larry, it was always fun. Whenever we were jousting or no matter what. But I would say my very favorite and lifelong memories went with when Leonard Katzman took Mr. Kennedy, Mr. Duffy, Mr. Hagman, Kathy Podwell, and myself. It was the two couples. We went to Vienna, Salzburg, Moscow, and it was where Bobby and April fell in love. And that's when their relationship finally came together. And we were horseback riding across the Austrian Alps and jumping off my horse and spinning around in my Julie Andrews moment in the Austrian Alps, and walking down the streets of Salzburg when it's so incredibly beautiful and land that time forgot. You think that Mozart is going to step around the corner at any moment.
Yep.
It was the most beautiful and the most fun dancing in Vienna, in a Viennese waltz, and seeing the Lipizaners and being,
wow.
Yeah. So I had such big life experiences and traveling with people that I just adored. And those are memories that are just, and then of course I asked to be killed off because I knew it was the last season of Dallas, and I was 7 months pregnant when I married Bobby Ewing. And
in real life, let's throw that out for everybody.
In real life, no. Bobby and April did not have a baby
Right.
under that big bouquet of flowers. No, I knew I was only going to be a first-time mom once in my life. So I said, Leonard, kill me off in grand fashion. I don't want to go out like milk toast or this or that. Well, he stuck to his word. Okay. I didn't know I was going to get machine gunned down on my honeymoon. And I've always said this in every interview, note to self, never ask to be killed off, because you never know if there's going to be a reboot 20 years later.
Definitely.
I know. So, no, so many wonderful things. And even, I gave birth to my son dangerously close to having to go back to work. He was only 5 weeks old when I got on a plane to Paris with him to shoot the honeymoon and the kidnapping and then the death scene and the whole 9 yards. By the time we left Paris, it was 5 weeks later. So my son had spent half of his life in America and half of his life in France.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Only 10-week-old baby.
How did you do that, by the way? I mean, I have two sons, and I know what it was like for my wife right after giving birth, and how like just energy wise, my gosh, that had to be hard.
I have to say, it was pretty challenging, but I took my mom because I didn't trust my baby with anybody but my mother.
That's
And
awesome.
and Leonard was really sensitive to my needs because I was nursing and he
Mhm.
gave me mommy time, and then he would set up scenes so I would have appropriate mommy time, and then the baby would be sleeping, and then I do another scene and then I nurse them, and pumping and just
Wow.
eating, creating extra feedings and all these things that you do when I'd never been a mom before. So this was my first experience. I just did what I needed to do to get the job done and to also take the best care of my baby and have
Mhm.
my mom right there by my side. So it worked out.
Yeah, I mean, you pulled it off. Those are great moments in the show. That's what's ironic, I mean, nobody would know that. That is amazing, you know?
Okay, go have mommy time.
I mean,
Supposed to be
literally.
literally falling in love on my honeymoon.
Wow. Wow. So what by the way, what was look, I think Patrick Duffy's awesome and I can't say enough about the guy. But obviously you have worked with him, whatever. Yeah, what was the man like offset? I know he was a character, but what was he like?
Well, first of all, Patrick is Bobby. I mean, he's a really good guy. There's no question about it. He was a great husband, father. He's just as solid as they come. What you see is what you get.
Hmm.
And the irony of, being such a good guy is that he's such a comedian and he's such a goofball. And so it made life, I mean, really fun. And we are definitely friends. I just bought his Duffy's dough and I was getting sourdough tips at the Hollywood show this last week.
Yeah.
And I am so happy for him because he has found love
Linda
again.
Pearl.
And Linda is just magnificent. And they're both so happy. And it's wonderful to see. Yeah,
I agree.
yeah, I'm really thrilled for him because he deserves it. He's such a wonderful man.
Yeah, and he was through a lot. Obviously, his wife having, passed and everything like that. That it's just fantastic to see. I agree with you. He's a guy that I wish him everything. But
Me
anyway,
too.
yeah, I hear you. So and by the way, we've talked about so much. I haven't even had a chance to get to the other part of your career, but you're so fascinating. When did you decide to even just be an actor? That's the other thing, because I know you grew up in Minnesota and then Boulder, but
Yes, I was born in Minnesota, but I was raised in Colorado.
yeah.
And when we got older, I was like 7 years old. And my mother started me in church plays when I was 8.
Oh,
And we did, and I got the bug way back in the day.
yeah.
I loved it, and I remember giggling to seeing my friends. I was on stage and one of my friends was pointing at me and laughing and I waved and my mother was like, "You cannot do that. You are in character. You are this."
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
And she said, "This is, if you're going to do a job, you have to do it right." And she said, "You can't be waving at your friends. That's, you know, you can't be doing that when there's a manger and a baby Jesus." Easter service. Oh, I'm at the tomb, but hi.
Oh, how funny. Classic though. So
Yes.
so
I got
you
the bug early on,
yeah.
and but I didn't really. I was more into sports, in high school, junior high and high school. And, I was an athlete and all around gymnast. I ran track and field. I was a cheerleader. I was a pop girl. I was, that was, I did talent shows and a little bit of theater, but mostly I was into athletics at that time. And it was only when I was in school, in college, that I was part of a degree was in fashion merchandising, because that was in the back of my mind that I still wanted to act. And I thought, what if I could get to New York City? And I was setting up a fashion show at the Denver Merchandise Mart. And this photographer, I was really skinny because I couldn't afford much food. I was putting myself through college. My parents were living in Tucson at the time.
Yeah.
And anyway, I was really thin and there were platform shoes. And it was like I looked, tall and thin, like Twiggy. And the photographer kept taking pictures of me. And I was like, I am not modeling in the show. I am running the show for my.
Wow.
And so he turned the pictures over to Vicki Light, who had the Light Company of Denver. And he said, would you sign this girl if I can get a hold of her? I know she lives in Boulder. And he lived in Boulder. And she said, in a minute, she said, do some test photo shoots. So he tracked me down and invited me to do a photo shoot. And it was athletic wear. And I was doing tennis and riding bikes and this and that. And I put on about 3 different outfits. And he did this. He goes, I want to test you to see how you perform in front of the camera.
Wow.
And he had a guy there, and we looked like Barbie and Ken, I swear. And so we were laughing how silly it was and how we were pretending to play tennis in our tennis outfits and this and that. And I got a call from my girlfriend, and she's screaming, and the phone. She was like, "You got to go get the Denver Post. Go get the newspaper. Quick, 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 quick." I said, "What are you talking about?" Those were ads, JCPenney's ads in the Denver Post that Sunday.
What?
He was like, I was putting myself through school working at a clothing store called Eakers and making $2.85 an hour or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Oh, by the way, you worked for 4 hours, so here's $200. I was like, what? What? He said, "Yeah, we're paying $50 an hour." I was like, okay, I could do this.
Right.
So Vicki signed me, and I started doing modeling for JCPenney's with Bernard Grant, the photographer, and this and that. And lo and behold, I was just finishing up my schooling and my degree, and Vicki Light gets a call from Wilhemina of Wilhemina Models
Oh
in
my
New York.
gosh. One of the
And
best agencies in modeling.
so Wilhemina said, it's been a tough time tracking you down. And Vicki goes, "And why are you tracking me down?" She said, "Well, JCPenney's keeps calling me and Eileen Ford and asking me who the blonde is in all these ads. And they want to book them through my agency, and Eileen is getting the same calls. And we couldn't figure out who this girl is." And she said, "Well, she's my client." She goes, "Well, tell her I'd like to meet her." And she flew to Denver, and I met with Wilhemina
You've got to
at
be kidding me.
the Brown Palace in Denver. We had lunch, and she asked me if I would consider moving to New York City to further my modeling career. And I said, "Well, do you have a theatrical department or a commercial department? Because the truth be known, I'd rather act than model." And she said, "We do. We have a great one, and we can groom you, and you can study theater once you get to New York, and you can do commercials, and you can blah, 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 blah." And she said, "Since you," I said, I don't have any idea what New York City would be like. I grew up in Boulder, Colorado. I'm kind of a podunk from Boulder. So that's a little intimidating at this moment." And she said, "Well, then you'll come live with me in Connecticut. We do this with a lot of our out of state models. We have a huge extra wing and house that we house some of the models. And then you'll take the train from Connecticut, from Greenwich every morning to Manhattan with me and my husband who works there, and da 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 da. And so I said, well, I'll graduate in December. And she said, I'll see you in January. And I
Oh,
said, okay.
wow.
So
Wow.
unfortunately, Wilhelmina got pneumonia before Christmas, and she went into the hospital, and they cut her open, and her lungs were full of cancer, and she died 2 weeks later. So I never saw her again. But instead of going then to move to her house, which was inappropriate, they put me in a house with 5 other girls. One girl who just won the cover girl contest from Australia, and she was flying in, and there was a photographer who had a downstairs apartment, like a garden apartment. And there were 3 girls in one room and 2 girls in another room. It was only a 2-bedroom. It's just, we were sandwiched on top of each
Wow.
other. But yeah, that's how I got to New York.
Okay, seriously, I tried to say that at the top of this interview, who's ever listening, but you have had a life that it is just like the hand came down, and I mean, it's just incredible. That's an amazing story. I just love that story. And by the way, just so everyone knows out there, how many commercials did you book in the like first year that you were out there in New York?
Well, I shot over 30 commercials in 18 months.
You're right.
So it worked out pretty well.
Yeah. That was kind of a great way to.
But you know something, I also have a great work ethic. I mean, my parents we had chores every moment of our upbringing, cut the grass, we had horses, so we had to groom them, we had to clean the stalls, we had to, we worked.
Mhm.
And I was babysitting, got a work permit early on when I was 15, so I could be a car hop at A&W root beer stand. And you know, I graduated to Dairy Queen, even though I was in school, and I still wanted money. My parents just didn't give me an allowance. It was like you had to
Mhm.
work anything that you want to go to the movies, get a job. So, okay. But that was the decadent 80s. And
Mhm.
I was a party girl going out to Studio 54. In fact, I never stepped foot in Studio 54 the entire 4 years I lived there. And
Wow.
that was everybody was, and they were partying, doing drugs and staying up late and this and that. Well, when you have a 9 o'clock call or an audition and everybody else has been out till 2, 3 in the morning, they don't drag themselves to these auditions in the morning. I mean, I was had an intention, and if I wanted to have a career, I had to earn it. And I was at every audition. I gave myself every opportunity. I mean, so I'm not saying I'm the most talented in the world. I wasn't the prettiest in the world, but I showed up. And that's something you got to do in life if you want to get where you want to be.
I love it. I love it all the way. It's great. I agree with you, by the way. That's also what, when we open, I wanted to say that it's, yes, you have had these incredible opportunities, but you've taken them and you've made the most of them. And you've driven them to happen in essence. That's so cool. The other thing, when you mentioned, oh, geez, I just blanked out. What was the our family honor? When we
Yeah.
talked, I know my audience really well, and I know they're going to say, "Why didn't you ask about Ray Liotta or Michael Madsen or whatever?" Because that cast is nuts. Ray Liotta, Michael Madsen, Eli Wallach. Yes, none of
Eli Wallach,
unfortunate.
Kenneth McMillan, Eli Wallach. He was so funny. We would go to lunch and he would order orange jello every single lunch. It was like such a little delicate move, and talking about Marilyn Monroe and Clark Gable, and I would just pick his brain about all the things that he'd done. Michael Madsen is true to his character. He was quiet, didn't talk to many people, just kept to himself, really. Um, Not brooding, but very, very, very mysterious that way. Ray Liotta scared me at
Yeah.
first. He was scary. He was so intense. He was sweet as could be. But when you just see that thing in somebody's eye and you go, I'm not going to ever make him mad. you know, um, you know, Kenneth McMillan, Daphne Ashbrook. She was wonderful. It was again one of those dream situations where we're filming in New York City. We were living in Central Park South at the Ritz-Carlton. May I be spoiled rotten?
Wow. Wow.
No, it was pretty special. Yep.
That is, and you did, just to name some other ones, you take a whole different route. You go Fraternity Vacation with Tim Robbins and John Vernon from Animal House, and it's like, what was that like on that's a completely different type of movie, everything. What was Tim Robbins like then? He would have been like a real young guy.
Totally young, totally just the life of the party, happy-go-lucky, but also had this very serious side to him. He was a serious actor, even though he was playing this bumbling Fraternity Vacation goofball, comedy. He was, in his spare time, he was playing the guitar. We all had rooms that looked out over the pool, and so everybody'd be out on their balconies, and he'd be playing the guitar and this and that. And then he was really intently doing stuff on the set one day, and I said, "What are you doing? You're so focused." And he said, "Well, I'm adapting this German play that I really, really, really have to bring to the stage. It's so intense and it's so this." And I'm like, "You're adapting a German play on the set of Fraternity Vacation."
Right.
No, he was very serious about his craft the whole time. That whole thing was just one big Fraternity Vacation party.
Right.
Nothing more you could say about it.
I got you.
Yeah, except for the fact that they sprung this scene on me when I got to set, and I'm going on record for this. They said, "Oh yeah, we added this little shower scene where you come out of the shower and you go over and you pick up your towel and somebody's trying to spy on you." And I go, "Oh no, 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 no. I am not taking my clothes off for this B movie or whatever it is." And I said, "You can call my agent right now." And I quit, and I'm driving from Palm Springs back home. I said, "No, I'm not doing it." So they hired a body double, and she was one of the girls that was a receptionist at the production office to be my body double. I said, "You say body double. No, but I don't want that buried at the bottom of the credits. You say that there's a body double in the credits." So those are kind of the things that you go, "That's not going to fly with me."
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I just love your strength. I mean, seriously, that's so cool. It's such a young age too, because so many would be like, "Oh, okay," you know.
And Cowboy Hank's daughter, my dad was.
I'm telling you, I'm telling you. So I don't want to miss just your overall producing as well, because I think obviously people know you so well as an actress, but you go on and you create and if I say it wrong, help me out, but was it Sandoval
Entertainment.
Sandoval Entertainment? And what kind of has drawn you to do that, to create your own production company? You've put out quite a few movies at this point.
Actually, I was asked, a friend of mine acquired the rights to Easy Rider, and he had written a prequel, and there was the rights to do up to 3 sequels. And I thought, wow, that's intriguing. And they had raised a little bit of money, but not enough. And he said, "Come on and help me produce this. I know you know Peter Fonda. Maybe Peter Fonda will get behind it," because Peter Fonda and Larry Hagman were best friends.
Oh, I
And
didn't know that.
oh yeah, Peter Fonda lived in Larry Mai's guest house upstairs for years, and Bridget Fonda was practically raised by Larry and Mai,
Oh,
and yeah, they were very, very close, and they loved motorcycles, and Larry had motorcycles, and they rode all the time. So yeah, that
oh
was.
wow.
I think they were using me to get to Peter Fonda, frankly.
Yeah. Well, yeah, whatever. Yeah, but still, yeah, I get you.
Um, but no, I jumped at the chance, obviously, to learn how production works, and I had a very nice part in the movie as well. And we went out and raised some money. We'd go film, and then we'd raise some more, $400,000, to go shoot some more, and we'd go raise. Not the way you want to do a production ever.
No, no.
Learn the very indie independent filmmakers. But it's also how I met my husband, because I was single at the time, and a friend of mine came, I was at my girlfriend's house, and
Yeah.
this guy comes over to buy an engagement ring from her for his fiance. And he was a producer in Baton Rouge. And I said, Jason, do you want to produce the prequel to Easy Rider? And do you want to take it to your studio? And he said, no, I'm in the middle of too many productions right now. He goes, but I'm working with an executive producer who's probably looking for a trilogy like what you're doing. And he's actually too nice. And I said, there's no such thing as too nice. He goes, oh yeah, he's too nice.
Wow.
So I was like, okay. So we were set up to meet, and he was calling. I said, give him my number, and he called me, and we went back and forth, and finally we were set up to meet. And I just go in and I'm pitching hard. First of all, he picked my favorite restaurant in all of Los Angeles. How he knew that, I don't know. But then we went out. I was pitching. He was just listening intently. Finally, he said, just exactly what did they tell you about me? I said, that you're an executive producer looking for a trilogy. Why? And he goes, oh, they told me you were newly single and I should date you. You think we're on a date? Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. So, hi, how are you? Do you have a family? Do you have any children? Backstroke. Anyway, we closed the restaurant. He happened to be working with one of the guys that worked on Walker, Texas Ranger. So he had him come by at the end. Steve Prince came by to the restaurant to say hello, and he surprised me with him. And da 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 da. And anyway, long story condensed. We saw each other the second time at the Dallas reunion, 30-year reunion. I invited him to that. And so we got along famously, and the rest is history. We've been together now this is going on 16 years, and he also invested in Easy Rider, and he was an executive producer on that. And he also did The Gun Down, which I produced, and I was the lead producer on that, and he did make his money back. So
Oh my gosh, that's cool.
And Sandalphon Entertainment was Julie Lynch and Colton Meacham. That we were the core of that, and we developed so many very, very incredible projects. It was a struggle, though. COVID changed everything, and
Yeah.
it just got harder and harder and harder before that, even to get independent feature films made. And
Yeah.
we had a project, True Sayers, and even Viola Davis got on board to be a co-producer with us, and this and that. But then she was 6 films behind schedule, and there's so much hurry up and wait in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
And so it gets to be a little challenging, but producing is wonderful. You get to wear a lot of hats, and I would cast, and so I would read with all the actors, and it was wonderful. I would see somebody who had real talent, but they were so nervous, and I would go, stop, go out there, do 20 jumping jacks, shake it off, and come back in. And they would just go out. I said, just get rid of whatever that frenetic energy is. And she would come back. She came back in. She killed it. She got the part.
Wow.
So you can tell when you're casting if people are really connected, because
Oh yeah.
listening and receiving, and they look you in the eye and they can really connect to what you're saying, and then you've got something golden.
Oh yeah. That's amazing. That's so cool. I'm happy for you. So as we kind of I've kept you so long. But I've had a blast, by the way.
Find all those movies on Amazon Prime.
Name them all, by the way. They believe me, my followers be like, which ones were those?
Easy Rider, The Ride Back. There's The Gun Down. There's Dug Up. It's a zany, wild, very inappropriate zombie comedy. Just putting a disclaimer on there. And there's Born Wild. There's that's about it for now.
Well, that's pretty good. 4 is pretty impressive. Well, hope you enjoyed the first part of the interview with Sheree. She is just wonderful. And I highly recommend listen to part 2. Don't miss it, because she goes into the rest of her career, some great stories that are pretty wild. Enjoy.